Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, Now I know some of you people know that I'm a religious man, and uh, and of course some of you are kind of surprised about that. But here's one thing that you guys should be surprised about as well: that I am a vampire fan. That's true. I mean, even though I am a religious person, I also get so fascinated over the supernaturals and mythologies and things, and vampires are one of the things that I do enjoy. And I would do a review, my theory review about the vampire franchise and all, but for now there is one certain thing I want to talk about. I mean, my favorite vampire movie of all time is the universal classic of Count Dracula, starring the talented Bela Lugosi. I mean, I think he's pretty awesome. I mean, he's really great playing the Dracula. But all things aside, I want to talk about the vampires who are in comic books. And not many people know that Blade is also a superhero comic book character. And not many people even know that the one that I'm talking about, that some of you have seen movies of, is, of course, Blade. That's right. Blade is a Marvel superhero and a vampire hunter. He's part human, part vampire. He has all their strength and none of their weaknesses. And that's one thing that's really awesome about him. And of course, he appeared in Tomb of Dracula back in the 70s. Back when the comic code had been removed out of the DC Comics because Stan Lee wanted to do an anti-drug comic on Spider-Man, and the seal of approval said you cannot mention drugs, and he's trying to tell them that it's not about drugs, it's about the awareness of the dangers of drugs. But the seal of approval said they don't care, he cannot mention it, so he published it without the seal of approval, and now all the Marvel comics are now been doing some comic books with other things that the seal of approval wouldn't even approve of. Like they've been doing monsters but the classic monsters like Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, and also did Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And Blade appeared in Tomb of Dracula when they did one issue when Dracula had been risen from his death once again, resurrected again, and the people who were born to stop Dracula was, of course, a descendant of the Dracula family who was human and never a vampire, named Frank Drake. He inherited the castle of Dracula, and now he becomes the key of destroying Dracula once and for all. And he also teams up with Rachel Van Helsing, who is a descendant of Abraham Van Helsing, and also Quincy Harker, who is a descendant of John and Mina Harker. And of course, they come across Blade. And they made him to be a cool vampire hunter character in the Marvel Comics because he has a little bit of Shaft. If some of you remember the old Black Exploitation movie, Shaft, who's a certified vampire hunter to all the human race. Blade, right on. Trying to do some good, helping humans in the hood. Man, that Blade is one bad mother. Shut your mouth! What, I'm just talking about Blade. And of course, I watched all 3 Blade films, and of course, I came across an impression of him. Suckers like you always try to ice skate the bill. Of course, in my impression, I like to say sucker instead of the F word he always keeps on saying in the movies. Kill you? Sucker, I'll kill you! I've been sworn to destroy all those unbelievable suckers who ever existed in the entire universe. There's worse things out there than vampires. There's me. But despite of Blade, who is the most popular vampire character, superhero in the Marvel Universe, I am actually more of a DC fan than a Marvel fan. And I came across a vampire hunter superhero who I think is pretty awesome. And I looked him up in this, my DC Encyclopedia. Of course, the cover looks a little torn, but still. And of course, the character in the DC universe, which I can find around here, around I. And of course, you're wondering why I said I, is because this character came in a comic book issue called I, Vampire. And that's what he looks like in this comic. And of course, how the story goes, the vampire's name is Andrew Bennett. And of course, one thing about Andrew Bennett, that he was a devoted soldier to Queen Elizabeth I, back in the time when the English had battled against the Spaniards. And Andrew Bennett, during his years of finding, enemies around the area, all of a sudden he gets attacked by a mysterious vampire who bit him in the neck and turned him into a vampire. And he lived his entire life drinking deer blood out of a champagne bottle. And of course, during his years, he fell in love with a beautiful maid who goes by the name of Mary Seward. And of course, he decided to turn Mary into a vampire so they both can fall in love. I mean, they will be in love for all eternity. Big mistake on that one. Because after Andrew Bennett turned Mary into a vampire, she became a killer and enjoyed killing innocent people for their blood. And it didn't go well for Andrew Bennett at all. So therefore, they separated, and now Andrew is in a never-ending search to find her and stop her before she decided to bring about end of the world in a vampire Armageddon way. Turn everybody into vampires so they can rule the world. Andrew Bennett didn't like that, so what he does is he forms his own vampire hunting group. And he teams up with an old man named Dmitri from Russia. He saved his life when he was a little kid from a pack of wolves. And also, he finds a young girl who is kind of a Buffy-like character, but different. Her name was Deborah Dancer, and he saved her during a vampiric Woodstock. If some of you remember the 60s, that's how the history was on Woodstock. And they all group up together as vampire hunters. And Andrew Bennett found a serum. It will turn all of his vampire hunters have the same vampire ability, but no thirst. They will never be thirsting for blood, but they'll be immortal, and they'll have super abilities that all vampires would have, except without the bloodthirst and the Fang Show. And of course, sadly, at the end of the series, I, Vampire had ended where Andrew Bennett committed suicide. Mary Seward, his wife, who is now called Queen of Blood, she was bringing about the vampire Armageddon by some spell and all, and Andrew Bennett came over her and stopped her, and he reversed the spell, so now all vampires die instead of all humans, and he died along with Mary and all the other vampires around, and all that's left is Deborah and Dmitri. And then it ended where Dr. Fate, who is a sorcerer in the DC Comics and a superhero, he brought Andrew Bennett back to life. And he got weak until he finally got his strength back, and now he's fighting other monsters. And then all of a sudden came across, and now they did a New 52 version of I, Vampire. And as some of you don't even know about the New 52, New 52 is supposed to be an alternate universe where all the DC superheroes are in the present time, and it's supposed to be like a up-to-date 50-second dimension, because all the superheroes goes to alternate universe and all, so that kind of explains a lot. And New 52 are supposed to be the 52nd dimension, where now it's in the present time and all the superheroes are around and they're all born from around that time, and that's how different about it. And of course I looked through the New 52 edition, and it's kind of bloody and a little kinky. I didn't care much about it. I mean, they unlike the Andrew Bennett look from the book that you saw, now Andrew Bennett is wearing blue jeans and sometimes a white t-shirt. And he also has his hair shortened, but still has the streaks. And to me, I think it's better if they did a TV series of iVampire, but lay off the look from the New 52 or the original comic, because all the other vampire characters are now wearing tights and capes and gloves and all. And I like to change the look, so I draw a lot of pictures of the TV series of iVampire that I wish they should have done. They should have done a TV series of iVampire, so Andrew Bennett will be known. I did a cover here. Of course, this one is in white. And, of course, if you want to see more pictures, I'll download the pictures so you all can see it and see what you think. And of course, another thing I thought up, I looked up of all vampire characters in the DC universe. So I thought if they do the TV series, they should also introduce all the vampire characters in the DC universe. Both good, bad, or ones in the middle. And also, you know, just continuing on from there and see if the fans would love it or not. And, of course, this is my review of iVampire. And, of course, this is me saying so long. Oh, and if you're wondering about my look, this is exactly what I thought Andrew Bennett would look. Black shirt, black trench coat, black pants. You know, kind of like what Dracula from Dracula 2000 would look, because I liked his look. Anyway, bye-bye now.